Yeah, what else are we going to start with this week but a little Prince? Not only is it a great song, DMSR, by the way, from 1999. If you don't know it, know it. We're talking about creature features this week, and that qualifies as a monster jam. You're kind of shaking your head like, oh, okay, that kind of fits, but maybe not. But it does, because actually I was having a hard time picking a song, and then we got that terrible news about Prince. Then, everybody's playing Prince music nonstop, as is totally understandable, and we got to get that on there. Love that song, and it fits, because, yes, it's a monster jam. Welcome. This is the Fright Club Podcast.
I'm Hope Madden.
And I'm George Wolf, and we are from madwolf.com. Check it out for all your movie blogs and movie reviews, and our special concentration on the horror genre. We love it. You do, too. Thanks for checking out our weekly Fright Club podcast. And last week we did it live, so some thanks to dish out.
That's right. Well, thanks to the Gateway Film Center, as always, for hosting our Fright Club Live. We did the best Korean horror, which is one that we've been looking forward to doing for a long time. And then we screened A Tale of Two Sisters, which is a magnificent horror film and so glorious to watch on a big screen. And I didn't get as much pushback as I thought I was going to, because let's be honest. So Old Boy was number 2. And let's be honest, although I adore A Tale of Two Sisters, Old Boy is a better film. It's a masterpiece, in fact. Although Tale of Two Sisters is a brilliant movie. It's a brilliant movie. But Old Boy is a masterpiece.
I like that concession. Now, you didn't make that last week. That's why there was a little bit
I think I kind of did. But I gave Tale of Two Sisters the number 1 slot because I stretched the genre to fit Old Boy in. I don't think it's a horror movie.
It's nice if you can, when you just go through life, just making your own rules, just willy-nilly. How does that feel?
I don't make my own rules like at the doctor's office, but it's my list, and I can make these rules.
Today I'll observe red lights. Tomorrow, maybe not. But, no, I like that, because I was giving you a little about Old Boy not being number 1, but I like that. Week after, maybe you've had some time to think about it.
I think I said basically the same thing last week, that
Alrighty.
Old Boy is a better movie, but it's not necessarily horror.
The key point here is
I'm right.
That I finally got some backup on House Soup. Again, John, thank you for that, John Dean. And we also have to thank Gordon, Fright Clubber Gordon, who came out to the live show, and he was wearing a suit. He had a
very snappy. He looked good.
Suit
Made
on,
the rest
tie
of you
on.
schlubs look terrible.
He did. Thanks, Gordon. Anyway, no, he posted a very cool video on the Columbus Horror Society on Facebook, and it was a breakdown, sort of a scene-by-scene or shot-by-shot breakdown of what makes Joon-ho Bong such a great director.
Yeah, and he was on our list. He did The Host. He directed The Host, which is also a brilliant creature feature. But he's done. And he did
Snowpiercer.
He did Snowpiercer.
Awesome
he did
movie.
Mother. And then he did this. I mean, he's just an amazingly talented and really, really versatile director. Because really, of all of his films, the only one that would be full on horror would be The Host, which is also quite comical and exceptional. But I mean, his skill is amazing.
And this video centers on Memories of Murder. Another great movie that he did, and it's just a great, deconstruction of what can separate a great director from another.
Shows like that I love.
Yeah,
I adore
it's
shows like that.
so good. So again, you can check that out on the Columbus Horror Society on Facebook.
KILL.
Yeah. So always good stuff on there. So thank you for everybody for coming out. Our next Fright Club live event is going to be May 11th, correct?
Yes, it's going to be our first double feature.
Woo!
We're very excited because we're going to screen Kill List, followed by Ben Wheatley's new film, High Rise.
Do we have a rule that after you say Kill List, there has to be a pause, and then we say,
thank you.
There it is. Sorry. Yeah, we're going to have Ben Wheatley's Kill List, and then his new film,
High Rise, which is not a horror movie, but it's super awesome, and anything, it's an adaptation of a Ballard novel, which means it's not fun, it's not upbeat.
No, we got to see it about, a month or so ago.
Yeah, we got to see it at the SciFi marathon that they have here in Columbus at the Drexel Theater.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. Not a horror movie, but definitely deals in some big themes.
It's got an apocalyptic kind of a feel about it. There's death, there's murder.
Yeah, a little dystopian thing. Mm-hmm. It's going to be our first double feature. May 11th, we'll start with Kill List, thank you, and then High Rise. So that is going to be good. Looking forward to that. So please mark it down on the calendar. Make it out if you can. We'll have more coming up about that. But we got to get to the main event here because we got a lot to talk about. One film in particular that on this list that we have not ever included on the list, and we have a lot to say. We both have somewhat connections to the movie, some interesting stories about it. We'll get to that. But today's countdown is Creature Features. And we'll start with number 5. This is a movie that I think I've lobbied to have on different lists and have never made it past the gatekeeper that you are. But it's one of my favorites.
Don't get me wrong, I love this movie.
It's one of my favorites and one of our favorite directors from 1986, David Cronenberg's The Fly.
There is a limit, even to the imagination.
Something went wrong, Seth. When you went through, something went wrong.
Oh no, what's happening to me? Am I dying? Oh no.
A fly got into the transmitter pod with me that first time when I was alone.
I'm afraid.
Don't be afraid.
No. Be afraid. Be very afraid.
Help me. Please, help me.
Yeah, this is obviously a remake, a reimagining of the famous Vincent Price movie, The Fly, which apparently he liked somewhat, I guess.
Who, Cronenberg or Price?
No, Vincent Price. Before he died, he let Jeff Goldblum know that he liked it to a point, and then he thought it went too far because at the time it was pretty. It was pretty gross out.
Well, you can count on Cronenberg to go a little too far.
Yeah, especially with the body horror.
That's why we love him.
Especially with the body horror.
Yes.
And once the Fly becomes once Seth Brundle starts becoming Brundlefly,
Oh my God,
it really gets
Oh, it definitely does. Well, in that last scene where it takes the other machine with it, and so it's just this giant big, and with those huge eyes, it is just the most tragic thing.
Yeah, it is. And also, talk about Cronenberg and his
Let's.
He's got a cameo in this one though, as the gynecologist.
Mm-hmm.
But the body, yeah, I know, scary, isn't it? The body images that always seem to permeate a lot of his movies. Even in this one, beyond what happens to Seth Brundle, Jeff Goldblum's character, he even talks about what's happening to him on a personal level, like from its viewpoint. He talks about, what is the disease thinking? What is the disease doing to me? Which is a weird way to look at it.
It is. It's very scientific, which I think, I think that this is, I think in this film you can see that Cronenberg himself is sort of Brundlefly. He's sort of, he seems to take a very scientific approach, a very non-sentimental, certainly, approach to horror and in particular body horror. And I think that's, but he's still, you love you love Seth Brundle. You love him.
Well, he took a very unsentimental approach to what was happening to him.
Yeah, because he's a scientist.
A scientist, records it, keeps the little bits of his body that are flaking off like his ear, and he talks to himself and he talks about what's happening. And really at the time, that was sort of not controversial, but it was a tough choice to get confirmed Jeff Goldblum in the lead. I guess the studio didn't want, he wasn't a big star.
No, he wasn't.
Time.
But he was perfect opposite Gina Davis because they look just alike.
Well, and they didn't want her either.
That's just crazy.
Not only that, she wasn't a big star, but they were a couple at the time.
Yeah.
And I guess the studio didn't really want to work with a couple, but she did the best read. And yeah, they were great together.
Oh yeah, the matching mullets, and they're both so tall and gangly, and they look alike. But it's funny because Cronenberg did not traditionally work with studios, and so it's interesting the way that he had to fight back against some studio constraints to get what he wanted done. And then his next movie was Naked Lunch, which was awesome, made $0 and sent him directly back into independent filmmaking.
At one point, Tim Burton was tapped to direct.
That would have been wrong.
That would have been can you imagine the totally different vision for the movie?
Nothing against Tim Burton, especially in '86. He was still riding high, after Pee-wee and everything. But I love Cronenberg's approach to this, and I don't think very few people do Mad Scientist as well as he does.
Yeah, and I guess there's a different. There are a few different versions. Happier ending versions were filmed and shot, but never used. And they didn't make Jeff Goldblum very happy to even film them, to even consider them, which they weren't, and it worked out, better for it, because as they said, once your hero, your anti-hero, was Seth Brundle, and once he's gone, well, that's pretty much the end of the film.
Yeah,
pretty much. So, I guess for some reason, I don't know if it was just to please studios or whatever, but they did film alternate endings, but ended up
going with the right one. It's a
one.
beautiful movie.
Yeah, it really is.
Beautiful is an unusual adjective, but
yeah, and I don't know why everything comes back to The Simpsons, but I always think of that one Simpsons episode. Remember where they do a parody of The Fly and Homer has the teleporter and he's trying to use it to go to the upstairs bathroom from the downstairs. And Marge steps in just at the last second. Hilarious. But yeah, good stuff. The Fly from 1986, David Cronenberg's version. Finally making it on our list here of creature features because what he turns into, the Brundle Fly, is definitely a creature. Remember when they first show how he eats?
Yeah.
And then he ends up eating her ex-boyfriend's arm.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah.
Nasty.
You know what, though? Before we move on to number 4, should we talk about some rules, come to think?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did we not settle on the rules?
We didn't.
Your willy-nilly rules?
They're not willy or nilly.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to point out that, if you just take in every imaginable monster and try to pare down to creature features, well, it's nearly impossible. So I wanted to just point out that there are no vampires or zombies on this list because they're people. They're just people. Come on. So anyway.
Zombies are people, too.
Zombies are
I
people,
saw that
too.
on a bumper sticker.
So anyway, if you're waiting to see whether Night of the Living Dead makes a creature feature list, it's not gonna, even though I love it. It's just I had to start pruning. And then, there are so many utterly brilliant creature features. And I think the two that first come to anybody's mind would be obviously Godzilla and then also King Kong. I'm just going to go out there and say it. I know you're all tired of hearing it. They're not horror films. They're not. So they're not on this list either because they're great, not horror movies. Sometimes scary, a little bit sometimes. There's not nearly enough carnage and gore and bloodshed for me to consider them horror movies. So there you go.
All right.
And then the also-rans, like the closest, the ones that didn't make this list, just in case you want to tune out right now. Should I tell them? An American Werewolf in London. Just didn't. It was almost there, and then I gave it The Fly instead. And
a naked American man just stole my balloon.
And then also Dog Soldiers, which is my other favorite werewolf movie.
Well,
we'll just keep it.
Okay.
And then another Fright Club favorite that almost made it, didn't make it, Slither.
Oh, yeah.
How we love it.
How we do love it,
How we love it. And then another, The Host.
Mm-hmm. Just talked about that.
Yeah, that was another one that was really very close. That's a full-on creature features. There's no other way to describe it, and it would have been probably number 6 if I hadn't knocked. There were too many number 6s for us to do the fuzzy math. The other one is The Hallow, which probably wasn't nearly close enough, but it's a great little, fairly new. I think you can stream it on Netflix. Irish creature feature, pretty fun.
Well, those are good. Those are good, bubbling unders. But we've got a good solid list here. And speaking of Dog Soldiers, that is Neil Marshall, and he comes in at number 4. Another one of our favorites from 2005, The Descent.
There's only one way out of this chamber, and that's down the pipe.
This is not good, guys.
Can we get out of here? Which way?
I don't know.
Is there anybody there?
So that's right. That is director Neil Marshall, not our friend Knack-Mack, Neil McRoberts. I confused them for a long time. My apologies again to both.
That's funny.
So, yeah, Neil Marshall, who also did Dog Soldiers. Just brilliant. Just 2 utterly brilliant movies.
Oh, man.
And The Descent, though, I got to think we all agree is a better film. Especially in the horror genre. It is terrifying.
It is. It's a better film, and it has a bigger budget. The effects are better. Everything is just kind of up one level. But Dog Soldiers was great. Don't get me wrong.
Dog Soldiers was also funny.
Yeah, and one of the things, I think it seems like maybe a little director's choice, but I think it probably paid off. At his insistence, all the crawlers, all the monsters were professional actors. They weren't stuntmen or stunt people because he wanted to give them,
personality.
Approach it from an actor's perspective. And I think that really paid off. I mean, you may not see them that many minutes into the film, but man, they make an impression.
They do. Oh my God. And but one of the things I loved when I saw this movie the first time, and I did not know anything about it. I screened it and reviewed it, so I knew zero about it. And I'm claustrophobic, as you know, so I was already emotionally wrung out by the time she breaks her leg. By the time she breaks her leg, and then when the lead character, right, Sean McDonald, when she gets caught and can't. And we haven't even seen monsters yet, and I'm hyperventilating. This movie is already absolutely terrifying me. So, 40 minutes in, the first time you see a crawler, I was just beside myself.
And apparently,
I was full of glee about
I don't
this
know
film.
if you've noticed this because we've seen this movie many times, but there is a very early shot of a crawler.
Yeah.
It's not long after they start the descent. in the cave that they light up red, and then Sarah hears laughter.
Yeah.
And checking it out, in the background to the left, you see a silhouette.
Yeah.
So that's really the first time.
I
It
don't
may not
think-
always be caught.
Right. I don't think I even noticed that till I'd seen it probably 4 times.
Yeah, but it's awesome. And if you haven't seen the movie, it's a girls' weekend. They get together and they're having an adventure, and they're going to do a little cave. Spelunking, cave dwelling, cave exploring. But what they don't know is the leader, Juno, has decided, this is not one that has been mapped out yet. She wanted us, she wanted the gang to put their stamp on it and to discover it for the very first time. So that's not a good idea.
One of the things I think that make this movie work so well is because it is reminiscent of a lot of other films, but in other films like this, the 5 or 6 people who go and get trapped in some, they're like Green Berets or something like that. These are just weekend.
Juno's kind of a badass a little bit, but you're right.
But basically they're you. They're whoever you are sitting there watching the movie. It'd be like if you decided for a weekend you and a bunch of your friends are going to go do this cave thing, and at the last minute your dumbass friend tells you that nobody else has ever been in this cave. I'd kill that person.
Yeah. And not only that, but what's cool is each girl is from a different country.
Yeah, you've got Ireland certainly is the one who breaks your leg, and then Juno is American, and Scotland and England are in there. And
so once they get down there, they
got sisters. They must both be from the same country.
Oh yeah, they encounter these crawlers, these monsters that are just so freaky looking. They're all white and they have no eyes because it's totally dark down there. They wouldn't have any use for them. You don't have any backstory about them. What's the deal? But you don't need it. They're monsters, and
oh my God, it's so good,
and it's awesome. And you brought up dog soldiers. Among the bones that Sarah falls into is a wolf's head, which came from one of the werewolves so they got that in there, which is awesome. But the way they look and the way that you might see a silhouette, but then when you finally get a good look at them, it's just so freaky.
Yeah.
And when they filmed the movie, Marshall kept what they looked like, secret from the actresses for the longest time, so they would be so frightened, because those are just freaky looking things.
They totally are. And whenever we talk about this movie, I generally warn people that there are 2 different endings. And when I saw it a couple times in the theater, and I saw what was the American ending, which I prefer, to be honest with you. But when I first rented it with my older sister, I didn't realize that the one we got had the original European ending. It's a much grimmer ending, and one of us got beat to shit over that. Oh, my God. My sister was so mad. So just be aware that our stamp of approval is on the American ending.
Right.
I don't know which one you prefer, but we like that one better.
And you might find it, if you've seen the movie, you probably find it easy to believe that the crawlers were designed to resemble Nosferatu, because they do. They don't have the ears aren't as big, but they really do, and they're fearsome. So that is number 4 on our creature feature list from 2005. Neil Marshall's The Descent. We've talked about that one before and love it. And another one that we've talked about a lot and love it. But obviously, if you're going to talk about creature features,
you can't not have it.
It's got to be there from 1982, John Carpenter's The Thing.
I know I'm human. Some of you are still human. This thing doesn't want to show itself. It wants to hide inside an imitation. It'll fight if it has to, but it's vulnerable out in the open. If it takes us over, then it has no more enemies. Nobody left to kill it. And then it's won.
You guys gonna listen to Gary? He can beat one of those things!
So as we've said many times, because this has made many a list, we love this movie. This is, I think, John Carpenter's best film.
Oh yes.
And that does not put down Halloween. What is my ringtone, George?
It's Halloween.
It's the Halloween theme. I love Halloween. But this movie is just brilliant.
It is. And what it doesn't do, I think a couple of things that set it apart, aside from the effects or anything else like that. When you get down to the crux of it, it has relatively intelligent characters that don't do really absolutely absurdist things. I mean, there are choices that some of the characters make, but still, and it doesn't pander. It doesn't pander to the audience. It doesn't pander to normal, quote unquote, horror movie cliches. It doesn't do any of that, and I think that sets it apart, and it especially helps it that it has aged so well.
It has. So 2 of the things that I think are the most important about, number 1, which I guess would be number 2, the actors are really very good, and that's not always the case in John Carpenter films, but these are very, very talented actors. Keith David, we all love Keith David.
Love Keith
Wilford
David.
Brimley, character actor for 1,000 years. Kurt Russell is great. You know, Richard Dicer. I mean, really, really capable actors. But for me, it's Carpenter's ability to exploit the claustrophobic internal nature of most of the film, and then the just isolation and just death of the outdoor, just frozen tundra. I think that, you know, they are so trapped.
Yeah.
And no matter what, there's no escaping it. And I think that visually he captures that just brilliantly.
Yeah, and especially when you think about most of it in that sub-zero, setting was filmed in Los Angeles when it was like 90 degrees outside. So the fact that they captured that, yeah, you're right. It's incredibly claustrophobic. They're so trapped. And it might have been the first John Carpenter film that he didn't score himself, and he ended up getting a score from Ennio Morricone.
Right, who just won his first Oscar.
Just won his first Oscar for The Hateful Eight, which is fantastic.
To be fair, actually, he won a Razzie for this score. Which is ridiculous.
That is
I know.
ridiculous.
But like so many great films, like The Shining, like so many great films, this movie was panned when it came out.
2001.
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody went to see it.
Nope.
And critics hated it, which is unbelievable to me. I can't imagine what fault anybody found in this film.
Well, you know those film critics. No, but that happens sometimes, and it's a movie where you take a film like American Beauty, Forrest Gump. Films that were really praised at first, and then they have not aged well.
No.
This one is
$1 Million Baby.
Yeah, $1 Million Baby. This is the opposite. The
Yeah.
more it goes on, you look back on that, and I'm sure the effects are, of the time, but they're still pretty good.
I think so, too.
They really are. But you look at it and think, yeah, you just appreciate how it's constructed as a horror movie. Yeah. And it's actually a lot more faithful to the original novel or short story Who Goes There than The Thing from Another World, which was the first movie in 1951. This one is actually more faithful to that story, and it's just awesome in so many ways. And we've talked about it so often, all the little homages, the little Easter eggs to other horror movies, and there's a ton in there. But it's one that, of course, if you haven't seen, you got to see it. And if you have seen it, it's one that is never unwelcome. You're always going to watch that.
Exactly.
Always going to watch that.
Yeah, it's just like what's going to be number 2. If this movie is on TV, I just leave it on.
Right, exactly.
Actually, number 2 and number 1.
Number 2, both. They might be the one.
Yeah, 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
If this is on TV, we're watching
exactly, yeah. Well, Die Hard's another. That's because that's my number 1 movie of all time. But not a horror movie. Anyway, number 2, definitely one of those that you leave it on, from 1979, Alien.
Oh, God!
No, don't touch it! Don't touch it!
So Geiger's Oscar-winning Creature.
Whoa.
Holy shit!
I guess it went through a lot of different incantations and a lot of different designs before they got to the final version. But one of them didn't even have eyes.
Ooh.
You think about the crawlers from The Descent, but it looks fantastic.
Oh my God! Everything about that creature. Like the sucker one that comes out first, and then the way it just grows exponentially, and it's got that second set of jaws, and it bleeds acid. Is there anything about this monster that isn't perfect?
It is perfect. I remember very distinctly seeing this at the movie theater when it first came out, and that chest scene, the chest.
Oh,
you talk
John
about
Hurt chest explosion.
Oh my Lord! People were just, what is going on? It was fantastic. But yeah, the face hugger monster, that
my
alone,
God.
everything about it is so horrific. And then, in the short amount of time from the baby little alien to when you see it again, and it's so huge.
Oh my God!
And also there's a very much of a claustrophobic feel to this because they're stuck on that ship.
Right, as we've said before, and as many people have said, this is basically a haunted house film. And one of the reasons that it works better than a haunted house film is that, when you're watching a haunted house film, you're thinking to yourself, just get out. Well, there's no place for them to go. They are trapped inside this. And it's not like one of those cool, like spaceships we were used to. It was this rickety old tub, and you think, I don't even know how that stays afloat.
Yeah, which was awesome. And just a little nod to how horrific these designs were, that Geiger, his initial drawing, some of his initial designs, he was going through the airport with them. They were held by U.S. Customs because they were just alarmed at what they saw. And the writer, Dan O'Bannon, had to go to LAX to explain to them they were designs for a horror movie to get him out of trouble. They thought, what is going on with this guy? And, of course, Geiger has designed so many classic things. But that's got to be the coup de grace. His alien monster is just fantastic. And as we've talked about before, it was never filmed. Ridley Scott never films him straight on.
Right.
Because he didn't want to give any sort of shot where you might see the guy inside the suit. Yeah, so smart, because it looks so... The way he shoots it from angles and cutaways, and then the tail is whipping around.
Oh, my God.
And you never know just what part of its weaponry it's going to unleash on you.
Yeah, and and we love the second one, obviously. But as we mentioned before, the second one is a great action movie, like an epic, outstanding action movie. But the first one is a horror film.
Well, I think they could make a good argument for the second one being a horror movie. I don't think so.
No.
But I can see
and
that.
certainly for a creature feature, absolutely.
Yeah.
But again, this is a horror countdown, and so we've just got the first one on here.
And the original cut was well over 3 hours long.
A Ridley Scott movie? Shut up.
And I guess it included a sex scene between Dallas and Ripley to, kind of speak on, how they deal with urges when they're so long in space. But they kind of visited that a little bit in Prometheus with Charlize Theron and Idris Elba. They have a little encounter there. And
basically, you got to think to yourself, Charlize Theron and Idris Elba, they would just have to nod,
we're the most attractive people here.
We're the superior humans. We're going to have to go ahead and take care of this.
But they cut that from, obviously, if you have to cut something from 3 hours and 12 minutes of movie, that was one of the things. But
it does. It seems needless to me.
I
think the film as it is brilliant. I think Ian Holm is so good in this movie.
Yeah,
oh my God, he's so good. He's so creepy and awful.
Yeah. So that is number 2 from 1979. Alien, a fantastic creature feature. And that could only leave room for number 1. And, man, you talk about a movie that you see it's on, you just leave it there because you know wherever it's going to be, middle, beginning, or end, it's going to be great. From 1975, it's Jaws.
It was seen by 67 million people. It took 2 years to make. It was shown in 40 countries, in 17 different languages.
Go!
Nominated for 18 awards.
Hurry up, he's coming straight for us. Don't screw it up now. Don't wait for me. Now! Shoot!
And it wasn't Jack the Ripper. It was a shark.
If you forgot what terror is like, the original Jaws is back. Coming soon for a limited engagement at a theater near you.
Now, as I said, we both have kind of stories about this movie. I'll just tell you mine first. When I was a kid, we were vacationing in Martha's Vineyard because we were going to, my brother and I were going to Joe Namath's instructional football camp, which used to be a thing, and he had it at Nichols College, which was right there in the area. So anyway, in Martha's Vineyard. So we were vacationing there while they were filming this movie. Now, we didn't know that much about it, except that it had been a best-selling novel. But we saw these people walking around with these Jaws T-shirts on. And then we didn't really see them filming scenes, but we saw out in the water all this equipment, all this stuff going on. And that's where they were filming out there with. So we couldn't really see it as when they were shouting action and rolling cameras. But we were on the scene there in Martha's Vineyard when they were filming Jaws. And we'll get to yours here in a little bit, which is also awesome. But, man, what a great movie. I mean, we watched it, I don't know, it's been a few months ago. It popped up on TV. And I just tweeted on our Twitter account, @MadWolf, watching Jaws, what an awesome movie. And so many people just chimed in. Yeah, because after all this time, it's just so great.
It is. And it's one of the very, very rare occasions where the film is better than the book.
Yes.
It's not just that they did a nice job of trimming where they needed to trim. I mean, it's a superior product.
It really is. And Peter Benchley, who wrote the novel, wasn't happy with the changing of the ending. But it's so much better, even though, and I know it's been really proven, I think Mythbusters did a thing on this movie where if you shoot a scuba tank with a gun, it's not going to blow up like that. Okay, fine. All
We're
right.
also not going to get a shark that follows you around like
Exactly.
that. So,
But the original, if you didn't read the book, the original ending, the shark just dies out of exhaustion and being beaten up. It's swimming toward Brody. It's going to eat him. He closes his eyes to, what's to come, and then nothing happens, and the shark just dies. I mean, No, we want it blown up with a scuba tank.
Yeah, we do.
So as a movie goes, yes, I will take that ending 1,000%. And it was a very, very young Steven Spielberg who got this gig. He had only directed the Sugarland Express, I think. Well, he directed Duel, the TV movie, which was
only
great.
film,
But his only film was the Sugarland Express, and he got, I think he was 27 years old.
It's crazy.
And he got control of this movie, and
of course, famously, the shark didn't work. And they had to. But luckily, that's the case because in a less is more approach, the fact and it really exploits the fact. One of the things that I think is the scariest about water is you can't see what's in there,
right?
And it really exploits that. It's like it could be anywhere. Oh my God, where's it at?
Yeah.
The fact that you don't see the shark is
4 minutes. I think it has 4 minutes of screen time.
It makes those few moments like Shovel and Chum, that much bigger. Like, there it is. It's so great.
Not only that, but when you watch it for the 83rd time, take a notice of how many shots Spielberg frames just about water level to give you the sense that you're treading water.
Yes.
Which makes it even more terrifying.
Oh my God, yeah. So scary. And one of the best opening sequences in any horror film, which is a countdown. We are going to do the best opening sequences in horror films.
Well, and if you're going to talk about the opening sequence, you got to talk about this music. I mean, got to be one of the top 5 themes of all time. That's just totally, when you first hear that, I guess a tuba or whatever it is coming in, and then it slowly gains speed, and it's so perfect to what this movie is about.
Is it not just a stand-up bass? I thought the whole thing was like a big stand-up bass.
I don't know. Whatever.
We don't know what it is, but it sounds awesome.
It sounds incredible.
Yeah, the whole score is just
brilliant. It really is.
Oh my God.
And then when
it's terrifying. Oh yeah.
And then when it picks up and the boats are out on the water, it's all not. It's just such a great theme and a great score.
It is.
And I think, in fact, Steven Spielberg has commented that he doesn't think the movie would have been half as successful without that theme. Now, I don't know about that.
No, I think he's right. And very much in keeping with Halloween, that Halloween would not have been nearly as terrifying without that score. Jaws just wouldn't have been. It's iconic for a very good reason.
It's so great. It's John Williams, and but that's part of the opening sequence. And also, not long after the opening sequence is the very famous scene where they find the remains of the first swimmer on the beach, and you see that arm there, and Hope has a story about that.
Yeah, my sister, my evil twin, Joy, she used to work with a woman in Boston, and that woman is the arm. And she has a great framed photo. They didn't tell her, Spielberg, so dug a hole. She's in a hole, and her arm is on the top of a hole, which you can't tell from the way it's shot. It just looks like it's just a severed arm on the beach. And Spielberg did not tell her that he was going to have crabs climbing on her hand. So the photo is of her. She's holding her arm still. She's in a pit screaming, and you can see Spielberg up above ground just laughing. It's the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Well, and originally they tried to use a fake arm.
And it just didn't look
good.
it
didn't look right. Didn't look right at all. So she was, I guess, on the crew or something.
I think she just waited tables in the area.
Is that right?
I think so.
Well, when we were visiting, I did see that photo that you're talking about, and it's awesome.
Yeah,
it's great. So that it didn't look as fake because it was actually a real arm. And one of the things I always wondered about over the many times I saw this, especially when I was a kid, there's that scene where it's the nighttime, and Brody is, he thinks his gun is going to kill the shark, and he's loading his gun. And then you see there's an actual shooting star goes across. And it's, at the time, I thought it was some sort of imperfection but no, that's an actual shooting star.
Oh, it happened. I assume that Spielberg put it there because he puts it in everything.
Well, apparently.
There's one in every Indiana Jones movies. There's one. Maybe it happened naturally in this one, and he started adding it to others.
Well,
but I just thought it was one
what
of his.
What I was able to find was that it actually happened. But
that's amazing.
That's a good point. Maybe he was inspired to do it.
Yeah.
But it's the scene there where he's loading the gun in the dark. And this is actually one of the 5, I think it's still just 5, horror films to be nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. The Exorcist, Silence of the Lambs, The Sixth Sense, Black Swan. You call Black Swan a horror movie?
Yeah, I could see that. I could see it.
Yeah, and this. So it didn't win, but man, it's such a great movie, and it's so well acted. You've got Roy Scheider, Richard Dreyfuss, Robert Shaw. Apparently, not only was Robert Shaw fond of the booze, but apparently he hated Richard Dreyfuss.
I don't
made
think he was
his
the only
life
one.
tough.
I get the feeling that Richard Dreyfuss was not popular on this set from
Is that
everything
right?
I've ever read. Yeah,
but I've read a couple of books on the making of this movie, and, the very famous and incredible scene where Quint, Robert Shaw, tells the story of the USS Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Apparently, they had filmed that at least once before, where Robert had a few drinks, and it did not go well. And he then, I guess, really sheepishly apologized and did it straight and did it in one take.
Wow.
And that scene is insane.
It is a powerful scene. It really is.
It's such
great.
a powerful scene. So,
it's great.
And so many powerful scenes in this. I mean, the Scheider, I guess, improvised, "You're going to need a bigger boat."
Nice.
I mean,
oh, my God. What a great line.
What a great line.
I love Roy Scheider.
Yeah, he was great.
He was.
And all three of them. They went through different casting choices. I guess Charlton Heston wanted badly to play Brody.
No.
Yeah, well, and Steven Spielberg.
Brody or Quint?
No, Brody. He wanted to be the hero. He wanted to be the hero.
How bad would that have been?
Well, and I guess Spielberg thought there's no way because he was the hero of every movie and people would know the shark. Well, no.
Wouldn't kill him, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and I guess Heston was PO'd, and Spielberg years later offered him a role in his 1941, and he turned it down. He was still mad with Spielberg. No, the other guy I always heard was going to play Quint was Sterling Hayden.
Oh, right. I remember, yeah.
A longtime actor. You might remember him. He played the big boss at the end of 9 to 5, although he had a long and distinguished career. Yeah. The old Western Johnny Guitar, there's a ton of them. Anyway, he had massive tax troubles. And I guess he was close to getting that role, but just massive problems with the IRS and couldn't. I could see him. He's a big, tall, imposing kind of guy.
Yeah,
but Robert Shaw was great.
He was perfect. Robert Shaw was so great. He was so great.
I guess he made Richard Dreyfuss's life a living hell.
Well, the characters don't like each other. So,
that's right, yeah.
So maybe it just worked for the film.
Yeah, so it kind of fit. But all in all, the way the story shapes up, and once they get out to sea, and Spielberg was very, very careful not to show any shots of land until the very, very end there to give you the impression that, why don't they just head back? I mean, they're so close to land.
Yeah.
You kind of feel like you're out in the open ocean.
Oh, yeah.
And how the film, again, it's not scientifically realistic. Much more is known about sharks now and about their behavior.
Sure.
But still, you can't argue. It makes for an incredible movie.
Oh, my God. Yeah, just one of the all-time greats. It really is one of the all-time greats. And one of those movies that changed everything when it came out. And the way that The Exorcist changed everything when it came out. And, I did not see this when it was in theaters. But my oldest sister, did, and she and there's just a famous story in my family. She had the upper bunk, and my other older sister Ellen had the lower bunk. And Julianne woke up. She had a nightmare after she saw Jaws. My parents had to come running in and soothe her, and she went back to sleep. And then as soon as my parents were out of the room, my sister Ellen, who had not been allowed to see it because she was too young, just shoved her feet up under Julianne's mattress and nearly sent her to the floor and said, "Now I'll never get to see it."
I actually, not only did we see it, we were there at Martha's Vineyard when it was being filmed, but because of that, we were sure to see it the opening weekend when it came out.
Wow.
And
I cannot believe your mom let go do that.
Well, yeah, we had kind of a connection with it, But, 75, I would have been 11. So, anyway. The scene where the head rolls out of the boat, I got a gentleman's popcorn that was behind me ended up on my head. Because, I jumped as well. Everybody did when that head rolls out of that boat. But, yeah, I was wearing some popcorn after that. But happy about it. And one of the other iconic things about this movie is that shot, that Jaws shot.
Absolutely. With Scheider's on the beach.
Yeah. It's a forward tracking zoom out.
I think Hitchcock had done it.
Well, it's I guess it's a reverse of a shot that was used for Vertigo, where they use forward zoom, reverse tracking. So it is that was called the trombone shot, and then a similar shot also was used in a dream sequence in Truffaut's Fahrenheit 451.
Oh, okay.
But it has come to be known as the Jaws shot, and it really is. It's been used in a few movies since then, but you see it and you think, oh, that's on the beach in Jaws.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because what a great way to show Brody's utter horror that
his
he knows.
Realization.
He knows.
Yeah, he
the
knew
beaches
better.
Should exactly. That the beaches should have been shut down, and that is the scene where the boy Alex Kintner, who got eaten off the raft.
Yeah,
well,
his mom.
An incredible bit of coincidence. Several decades after the movie, the actress who plays Mrs. Kintner walked into a seafood restaurant and noticed on the menu. I hope this story is true. That they had an Alex Kintner sandwich. So she commented that she played his mother many years ago. The owner of the restaurant was the boy who played her son.
No way.
Can you imagine?
Oh, my God. How awesome
I hope
is that?
that is true.
That's awesome.
Because that's like a Twilight Zone
That
episode
is.
right
That's
there.
awesome.
They had not seen each other in years.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so
hilarious.
that's, it's all about bringing people together.
That's what Jaws does.
The Alex Kintner sandwich. There's just so many things to love about it. But in the end, it comes back to the fact, like you said, if it's on TV, I'm watching
That's
it.
right.
And it checks in at number one of our creature features, Jaws from 1975. We've talked about our next Fright Club Live. Again, It is May 11th. Going to have the double feature of Kill List, followed by Ben Wheatley's newest High Rise. What else is coming up?
Next week, we're going to do High School Sucks. Inside the high school. It's why high school sucks. Horror films about that. And then the next week, we're going to do, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you right now to prepare yourselves, clowns.
Take necessary precautions.
That's right.
Because it's going to be clowns. That's all good. So, all right, you get comments on the creature features, let us know. Always Mad Wolf, MADDWOLF on Twitter is a good way to do it. You can check in on Facebook. We're Mad Wolf Columbus. And
if you're tooling around the web, I do the Saturday Screamers for ScreenRelish.com. And we also do a bunch of other stuff for them, so check them out. And we want to congratulate our fellow podcasters at Golden Spiral Media, many of which are nominated for some podcast awards. And we want to say best of luck in particular to our senior Aussie correspondent and good friend Corey Metcalf, whose triple cast is up for an award. And I'm going to say vote for him, even though I have a bone to pick with a recent triple cast in which he said The Terminator was a horror film. I disagree politely.
Yeah, Corey's triple cast is nominated in the entertainment category, also in the People's Choice category, the Arrow Squad podcast, TV and film. It's the Blacklist Exposed, and Society and Culture. That is Stuff I Learned Yesterday, the podcast there. So if you want to vote, we'd love it.
Stuff I Learned Yesterday, that's Daryl. That's
Daryl,
our boss over there.
Yeah,
it's a good podcast.
It is. So it's at goldenspiralmedia.com/podcast awards. And good luck to all the nominees. Hope they bring home some hardware. So all that's coming up. Again, check in. Keep the conversation going anytime at all. We love it from you Fright Clubbers. And we got good stuff coming up. Hope to see you and hear from you then. Until then,
I'm Hope Madden.
And I'm George Wolf. And this is the Fright Club Podcast.
Stay frightful, my friends.
Cue that monster jam.